So next up, we have our ForgeBox module of the week, and this is an oldie but a goodie, and I thought we should remind people that it still should be one of the top packages you use for a lot of different reasons. You want to tell us why?
Oh yeah, CommandBox dotenv, or I would probably pronounce it .env, so you guys can make fun of me. But storing secrets and source control files is a bad idea, but we still need a way to provide those sensitive credentials or config values to our projects. Put them in an env file, environment variables. This is something I actually didn't really use much of until I joined Ortus, and once I started, I'm like, why haven't I been doing this all my career?
Yep. Just so everyone knows, I'm sharing my screen, so I'm highlighting a thing that says, do not commit it to source control. Add it to your .gitignore immediately. If you search Google for .env files, you will find so many people who have committed their .env files, and they've got database passwords and credentials to all sorts of stuff, which hopefully they've rotated since then, but it's ridiculous how many people do it. So all of our templates always have a .gitignore with .env file. You should use a .env example to have everything except for your secrets in it. And then, yeah. Anyway, I just want to highlight and remind everybody of that because it happens way too often. So
yes, it does. I feel like that should be a webinar or one of these days, just common sense in modern web development. And that'd be like the first thing. Use env files and don't commit them to your repo.
Yeah. And Grant was like, oh, wow, I figured Google would have or should have hoped Google would have blocked the .env searches, and they may haven't since. But I think, yeah, for a long time you could search for .env files or just search for like password and it would show up so many. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Allows you to do it.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's a great tool for sure. And like, one of those things when you're working on multiple projects and you want to have your, your password set up. And I don't know how many times people would have it where they'd, upload their repo, whatever, and someone else would pull it down, and then they'd have a different password for their database server locally than someone else, and then stuff would all be messed up. And so, yeah, it's really nice to be able to have your own set up, your own configuration in a .env, and that way, everyone sets it. When it goes to different server environments, it can update as well. And if you're using Docker or whatever, then the compose files will provide the .env, the env stuff for you, so you don't have to use a .env in production, which is nice. So,
and I'll give props. John kind of commented in the chat. He and I used to work together at my last company. He did bring this to the team and said, hey, we should be using environment variables. At the time, we weren't in a good situation where that was easily doable, so we kind of tabled it. So I didn't really at the time, but now I joined Ortus, and it's like, whoa, where's this been all my life?
Yep, exactly.
I said that a lot when I first joined Ortus.
Well, it's one of those things, like if you're trying to use .env files in an old traditional Lucy setup, it just doesn't work the same. You don't need it. Once you're on a traditional server install, you add the data source, you're done. But yeah, the more you're switching between stuff, the more you're, going towards Docker containerization and being able to deploy all over and run CI for your tests and everything. Just certain things become more difficult without something like that. So yeah. But also John said that GitHub does actually warn people when they submit env files, or so he's told. But so yeah, so that's good. People are aware that it's a big deal. But it's really cool, and I really like the fact that with CommandBox too, if you have more than one site running, it doesn't load them into your normal .env, your normal environment variables. Like if you have something called, DB password on your machine, normally you could add an environment called DB password, but that means your password would have to be the same for all your databases, or you'd have to have different names for all of them. So this basically makes it local to that site and that site only. So
I also like how if so you have the env example file with all that you should have. Sometimes you're working with repos with other developers, and maybe they add something and you don't have it. You try to start your site, it's going to flag you and block you from starting the site if you're missing an environment variable that it thinks you should have, meaning it's in the example file but not in your env file.
Yeah.
So that's pretty handy. I ran into that again yesterday when I was updating a site. It's like, oh, looks like I need to add this.
Yep, and this was cool too, that you have the .env check, and you can have the reverse function, and you can put these into your Git hooks as well. So that way you can actually, before you start, that's what you just talked about, but you can also do it before you commit, before you check out, after you check out, and after you merge. So just basically make sure that you've got all those. And some people do turn the server check off, but trust me, it's nice that if you go to start a server and it's not working, you don't know why, it's nice to have a warning beforehand saying, you shouldn't start the server, you're missing stuff that it needs to run. So anyway, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I know Eric did a lot of work on it, and Brad's done a lot of integration with CommandBox, and other people have added things too. So really cool. Highly recommend using it. And even if you're not using Docker, it doesn't mean you can't use it. It's still good for a lot of things. So, and remember, we have good tie-ins inside of ColdFusion to pull properties from your Java settings, your .env files, etc. So it's even cool for in development. Hey, I want to use this email address to send my emails to instead of the normal ones, etc. So
I'm still finding cool things. Like I had no idea that I can just set some box server environment variables and they'll be picked up automatically by the server instead of going into a CommandBox server JSON file and specifying things. And so it's good stuff.
Yeah, and John brings up another good point. .env files, they work with Vue projects. They work with a lot of different languages, not just, something we're doing. It's a lot of languages are doing it. So, it's sort of the standard way to do things. So, definitely a good thing to use. That was our ForgeBox module of the week, brought to you by Modernize or Die Podcast, CFML News Edition, proudly sponsored by Order Solutions. You can see the new episodes every week on cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io or on the Order Solutions YouTube channel.